Welcome to the Shrewdness. We are so excited about this baseball-focused endeavor. As teased in prior episodes, we are doing 15 to 20-minute primers for each MLB team to prepare you for this 2025 season, to help you with your fantasy baseball drafts and future bets, or simply to improve your knowledge as the season begins. From the projected starters to the prospects, we will touch it all and give our shrewd takes on the key to their success. So sit back, take some notes, and enjoy the show. Hey, Shrewdness. So, as alluded to in our opener, we are going through our MLB primers. Tonight, we are going to start with a team down in Florida, the Tampa Bay Rays. And leading us through this thing is going to be Chiz. So, Chiz, over to you, bud. Tell us about Tampa Bay this year, what to expect.
Do it.
Who's who? Who's who in the zoo down there?
I still affectionately call the Devil Rays their appropriate name. So let's talk Devil Rays. So as we look at them this season, it's typical Tampa Bay, right? You never can count them out. When you look at them, you go, I don't know how they're going to win games. But last year, they finished up 80 and 82. This year, Fangraphs has them projected at 82 wins. Pacoda at 82 wins.
Kind of consistent.
And the over-under for Vegas is 81.5 wins. So
that's the most consistent line we've had.
It feels a lot like when all of us pick on a team in the NFL, like it's certainly not going to happen. So
either
if I
be
could
60 or 95.
If I could just lay money on not 82, I would do that because I feel like that's the only certainty
Anything
here.
but.
But the couple things to start out. One, they are not playing in their Tropicana field, which is probably a good thing because of the storms that happened. So they're going to be playing at George Steinbrenner Field, which is the Yankees' spring training home. It seats about 11,000. So that's going to be an interesting experiment for them.
Oh, well, I feel like parking's not quite there for a full Major League Baseball game. But
right?
The Rays might get to half capacity in that field.
They might even sell out a game or two. I don't know. We'll see. In another oddity, 47 of their first 58 games are at home. So they will be playing a massive amount of times at that little stadium to start the season off. And then they're on the road in the dog days of summer, which could be a tough stretch for them.
Yeah.
The weird thing is we don't know where they're going to be after this season. We have Steinbrenner Field locked down. Their new stadium isn't slated to be ready until 2029.
That's a long time to play on the road
from now. So I don't know if they're going to be in Tampa. If Major League Baseball, like, hello, Nashville? I don't know. Just a thought. But Tampa hasn't been incredibly supportive of the team. So we'll see long-term what they're going to be. But we know that they're in a minor league stadium this year. In typical Tampa Bay style.
It's not Vegas, is it? Like, we've already got two other teams vying for Vegas.
It can't be Vegas, but
no. The Athletics are actually that is Vegas. They actually have schedule like I think it's
supposedly
28 or something.
Yes, they've got a stadium going. In typical Tampa Bay fashion, their payroll is $90 million this year, so they are not spending any money on any big names.
So Juan Soto would not be a fit here.
It's not going to be a fit
and
here.
His $52 million a season is over half their salary.
Were you guys aware there's a floor?
Is this it?
It's probably it.
It's very
I don't know how you
close
get
to that.
much lower than 90.
But
established by Tampa Bay
the
Rays.
Players Union actually has you have to hit a certain threshold.
It makes sense.
Or you lose money. Where they're trying to they negotiate as part of the so
is it like a payroll tax?
Yeah, basically
for being under.
Yes, you actually have to hit a certain point, and you have to remember in that 90 million payroll, there's a certain percentage of that they're getting from the Dodgers and the Yankees, and
that's right.
They're getting a lot of money that funds that payroll from the other big market teams.
For sure, absolutely. So
and don't forget the actual stadium.
Yeah, right.
They actually get like $2 million a year for the stadium. They got paid to have George Steinbrenner Stadium, which pays like two people's salaries.
Right,
and it's their division rival. That's gotta just suck.
It's crazy.
Lou, I got a question. Do you know if that minimum is just the league minimum for each player times the roster size?
No, but I got it on the Royals Review podcast. They went through a whole piece
This
of it.
would be akin to the Chiefs playing at Al Davis Stadium.
Exactly. That's my point. Like, that's kind of brutal.
Like. I mean, I don't know that would go over well. But for Tampa, I guess, okay, here we are. So
I had a thought too on if they're playing that many games at home in the spring, it may be so they could get out of Florida in the mid-July, 95% humidity.
When it's so ridiculously hot. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I mean, it's hot elsewhere too, but it's not Florida hot.
It's different. It's soupy, disgustingly hot when you get into July. Probably no surprise here either, but the strength of this team is the pitching. They always seem to have good pitchers, even if you haven't heard of said good pitchers.
Yeah.
They will make them good pitchers. Their starting rotation is really good, and then their relief pitchers are really good too, even though, again, you don't have a lot of big names. So we'll go through those a little bit. In terms of additions, subtractions, not much. They lost Dylan Carlson, the free agency, who,
Not a big loss.
Not a big loss.
So he's a Cardinal organizational guy that ended up going there. And he was supposed to be high hopes. He came up and was really, really good with the Cardinals. And they wanted him to take that next step, like 3 straight years in a row, and he just never did. I can't remember if they traded him down there, if they just let him go. I thought they traded him. But
I think they traded him. But in the offseason, he signed with the O's.
Yeah.
And they did get Danny Jansen, catcher from the Red Sox, got him to a 2-year deal. They also took a flyer on Eloy Jimenez, signed him to a minor league contract. If you guys haven't listened to our White Sox preview, you definitely should.
Yeah. So I met this dude.
And we are going to have a Patreon clip that's a lot better, but we had to edit some of our questionable
content.
So
yeah.
But Patreon gets the full unedited.
It really is what inspired the Patreon to get set up.
It really is.
Yeah, it was. We've
had some funny episodes, but
it was good. It was good.
I want to talk about Eloy Jimenez. His guy is gargantuan. So I'm kind of a minor league. I like touring the AA stadiums when I get a chance to go do it. And so when he was still tooling around, we went down to Pensacola and watched him play down there. And I waited after the game, and this gargantuan human walks out
huge.
Late. He is they're huge, and then when you see him in person, he is 6'5" and like the thickest 6'5" you can possibly see. Like he eats up the entire batter's box. This guy can hit the utter bejesus out of the ball. I mean, all signs and expectations. So he was a former Cubs prospect, a huge one. And so when they got, from the White Sox, they traded. The Cubs got somebody, I'm just blanking right now, but regardless, in their World Series runs back in 2017-ish, whatever the heck it was.
16, 17, 16,
so
yeah. 16.
That was a big trade. And Eloy Jimenez went to the White Sox from the Cubs organization. He was like a top 30 prospect at that time. And he's got the talent, man. He's a great hitter. He's only 29, but he just, same thing with a lot of these dudes. I think he's just too big for his body. He's too strong for it. He keeps breaking it.
All right, hang on. It was
like 40 homer, 120 upside is what they expected from him. So it's supposed to be.
It was Eloy Jimenez, Bryant Fleet, Matt Rose, and Dylan Cease to the Chicago White Sox for Jose Quintana.
Quintana,
the pitcher. Yeah, they get their like number 2 or something at the time to go behind.
And Cease pitched for a long time for the White Sox too. He was a good get in that trade.
He was.
Well.
That was
fantastic.
the only name I recognized.
Yeah.
Yep.
Other than Jimenez.
Right.
But that was a big sign. That was the get was Jimenez in that trade. So it's kind of unfortunate the White Sox could never turn. I mean, they had arguably one of the most talented outfields. Period.
Yeah, they did.
And then all of a sudden, this all fell to crap.
Scary prospects. I mean, all at once, they should have been much better than they were.
We Royals fans were getting anxious, I will tell you.
Yeah, for sure. That they had a lot of talent stacked. I love this signing for them. A lot of people think he's going to break in, take the DH spot pretty early in the season.
I think so too.
So he's somebody to keep your eye on. I mean, he hasn't had great seasons recently. He's had a lot of injuries, like Dex said, but he's worth the flyer for sure. The other Spectre that we'll talk about in the lineup is, of course, Wander Franco. Franco, who had a 5.5 WAR in 23.
Yeah.
Is most likely going to be done for life. And
like
deservedly
legitimately done for life.
No
That's
jokes,
the sentence
folks. No
he's going
jokes.
to
It's
get.
not cool. No jokes.
Deservedly so. If what is said to have happened, and he's guilty, which that will be settled in court of law. But if that's true, he's not going to play anywhere. And he was an incredible talent. Baseball, strictly baseball speaking, incredible talent for them. The trial is in June now, so they will know something probably mid-season on whether or not Wander Franco goes away forever or he has a chance to come back. But he's a huge piece on their payroll and a huge piece in their lineup that's been gone for a year and a half now.
Yeah.
When you look at the rest of the lineup, there's not a lot from a fantasy standpoint. Yandy Diaz, first baseman who's worth rostering. He had 14 home runs in limited play. He was hurt some last year. Almost a 2-WAR guy though, and a pretty good leadoff hitter for them. Brandon Lowe is, he's a great player. He's just the last 3 seasons he's missed time to injuries. He cannot stay healthy. He's 30 years old. Second baseman that hits 21 home runs though. That's nice. That's a really good piece. And if you're looking for a second baseman
too,
in limited action, like he's those 2 guys are legit. And then the third guy you want to look at from a fantasy standpoint is Junior Caminero. Although he did not translate his first year up in the minors, he had an elite home run rate and a low strikeout rate. So there was a lot of hope for this guy. He was a top prospect for them. He's only 21 years old. He did not get on base at a high rate last year, only 299 OBP. He's definitely got to get better, but the upside's definitely there with him. And if you're looking for a late flyer at third in particular, I like Junior Caminero from that standpoint. Outside of that,
can I make an observation?
Yeah.
If we just transpose this lineup on the White Sox, does it look that different?
Yes, and I'll tell you why.
You got a couple proven guys here.
This is a good lineup, and they've got some upside where it is. The problem is health, man. Health. So Brandon Lau, it's either Lau or Low, and the other one's either Low or Lau. But
yeah,
Brandon,
I was confused.
Brandon
Josh
Low,
Lau,
I believe it's Low.
Brandon Low's
30, but he is truly elite when he's on. Like he's
He
really,
is.
really good. And he's never had it, man. OPS of 783, and that's with a 311 OBP. So what's that tell you?
Yeah.
He's slugging the bejesus out of the ball when he hits it. So what's that telling you?
As a second
but I'm just
baseman.
saying, for last year, if you look at how they performed, they did.
Yeah.
That is a murderer's row of ass. Okay.
Yeah, no, you're right. The best average is Yandy Diaz at 281.
Yeah, and he's old guy. But the other dude, Junior
And it drops
Caminero.
quickly.
Yeah, Junior Caminero is a top 10 overall prospect. I think pretty on the higher side of that too, but I want to throw at least that out. So he is someone that people were picking up last year in the seasonal drafts and for sure in your dynasty drafts and keeper leagues.
Yeah, love it in the dynasty.
And again, the elite home run rate in the minors that you got noted there is absolutely true.
Yeah,
21, man. So I'm going to give that guy a couple years to figure it out, but he's got all the talent in the world. And the other one they didn't mention yet, and I know you'll get to it, but Josh Lowe, he was 20 homers, 83 RBIs, 32 stolen bases, a 292 average, 335 in 2023.
Well,
so he was hurt, and they took a flyer last year to include myself last year as a comeback player after the injury. That didn't work. So he got hurt and stayed hurt all last year, but he's good, man. He's 27. He's in his peak. He's at his prime.
Josh Lau, he also had 25 stolen bases. he
now officially forever they'll be the Laulo brothers, Brandon Laulo and Josh Laulo.
Josh Laulo, he really is a case of will the real Josh Laulo please stand up? I don't know, because 1 year he's great, the next year he's kind of butt, and so it's what are you? And this is probably the year that he's going to have to define himself as elite. Or just a guy. You also got an interesting guy in Christopher Morel because they traded him from the Cubs. And if you look at his stat line, it's just butt, right? 196, 288, 634. but he had 21 home runs.
Yeah,
and he's only 25. And if the cool part for me as I looked at this, Fangraphs projects the WAR improvements for the year, and he has the second biggest WAR improvement according to Fangraphs. They expect this guy to come back in a big way, get on base a lot more, retain the power, and if so, he could have a great year too. But he just hadn't proven himself out yet. After that trade,
he's kind of like a Joey Gallo, to be honest. He's right now there's a lot of holes.
That's not good.
Yeah.
I know, but there's a lot of swing and miss in his game. He needs to hit the ball better, but he's got light tower power, right?
Kind of like Rob Deere.
Well, Rob Deere can at least get over 200.
Barely.
Adam Dunn, another one like that.
Adam Dunn, another good comp. So they're hoping that's why the Cubs
35 homers.
Cubs weren't too sad seeing him go. Plus the Cubs, and we'll talk about in a future episode, they got Matt Shaw. They're one of their top prospects. They want to stick at third base anyway. So Morel was expendable. It does have upside. I mean, it's a no lose deal really for the Rays. If they get lightning in a bottle and he actually hits his potential, he's 25 and he's cheap. So it's cheap power. But when you hit 21 home runs and you're a -1 WAR, that's kind of what we've been hitting on some of these guys. Like, man, you hit 21, but you're still worthless. You could have had someone do 0 and do better.
It's still better to not have you in the lineup.
Exactly.
With the 21 home runs. Like,
I got to say, I want to point out something here in doing this exercise, and we're really kind of throwing ourselves to try to get you guys extra value. I've come to realize that a 0 WAR is usually actually pretty good. It's like, it surprises me.
I don't know if I would say it's pretty good.
No, but like relative to like what my expectations were, like a replacement level Major League Baseball player is actually a pretty well performing. Like, I think replacement ahead. I think kind of like they're not good, but if you're performing at a 0, you're fine.
Average.
Like you could win. You could be a playoff team with some like average people. You can't have average people, but having just like average people's fine.
Yeah,
it's like a meets performance.
Yeah,
meets expectations in your performance review.
It's exactly what it's like. So it's not bad. The rest of the lineup is kind of yuck. They've got some speed in the bottom with Johnny DeLuca, Taylor Walls. Had a couple swipes, but they don't get on base nearly enough. They're starting center fielder and starting shortstop. Danny Jansen they got as a 29-year-old catcher from the Red Sox, and he's 205. 309, 658. He calls a good game, but he's not going to give you anything really offensively. And then Jonathan Aranda, 26-year-old DH, has been a bit of a disappointment as well. He could still spark, and there are some people that feel like this is going to be a potential breakout season for him, but he was not great last year. Either for a DH, at least for a DH.
Fantasy purposes on the offense, I'm basically looking at Yandy Diaz, kind of Brandon Laulo brother, Josh Laulo brother, Junior Caminero for upside, Chris Morel probably not draftable, but look at him in the spring, see how he does, and that's kind of it, right?
That's kind of it on the offense.
And if Jimenez does anything and bumps his way into the DH spot, probably him.
Look at him. The other guy interesting off the bench is Jose Caballeros. Jose Caballeros he led the league in stolen bases last year. 44 stolen bases of middle infielder.
That was the league leader?
And I think that was.
We'll get into that with Bobby Witt when we get to the Royals at the very end of this whole run, but I'll explain some of the Bobby Witt stuff when we get there.
Yeah, and so like he comes in a lot. He plays a lot off the bench, and he's I think a huge trade piece if they want to get something for him because he is speed, and somebody's going to want that. Outside of that, the offense and the batting orders is kind of average, but that's not how the Rays win. We know that's not how the Rays win. The Rays win with the starting pitching, and they always seem to find guys. It's like as a Royals fan forever, it's been like, why can't we find guys who can pitch like this? And they just have a cloning machine, evidently, in their minor leagues. And they just push the clone and hey, here's a guy that's going to be an awesome WAR starter.
Well, it's not just minor leagues. They get we trade them these random yahoos, and they're fine after they get there. They fix them and they look great.
Has-beens that they just retransform into their old selves or whatever.
It is amazing.
Their ace this year is Shane McClanahan. Shane McClanahan is was a rookie of the year 3 years ago, a 2-time All-Star, and then last year was out all of 24 with Tommy John.
Yeah.
Now, he was a stud whenever he was in. So last year in 23, he was a 2.39 ERA, 1.18 WHIP, 9.5 Ks per nine, like legitimate ace and a lefty. So he's nasty, and he's hitting now in spring training. He's up to hit 97, 98. So looks like he's good out of the Tommy John, and if so, he's the legit number one. They have a really interesting number two. He had a 3 WAR, by the way.
As a starting pitcher, that is so good.
Starting pitcher, it's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. You just can't pull great numbers because you only pitch once every 5 days. So
no, the irony is if you look at I'll just their top 6 starting pitchers. This was the WARs: 3, 2.1, 1.8, 1.2, 1.9, 2.3. That is incredible with the so 6 pitchers. Like it's sick to think of it. Zach Little, who was their ace really last year because of injuries and what was left, he pitched 156 innings for them. He was their innings eater. He may be the 6th guy this year. They're saying out of he may not even be the top 5, and he was the guy that carried the load for him this year. Drew Rasmussen is really interesting. He's a 29-year-old guy. He could be considered for the closer role. They're trying to figure out what to do with this guy because he's coming off of an arm injury. He's had 3 elbow surgeries.
Yeah.
Was out most of last year. He wants to be a starter, and they think they're going to make him a starter, and they believe him so much they've got him slotted as a second starter for them. He's got a 2.83 ERA last year in limited action, 1.08 WHIP, and this is what's crazy: 11 Ks per nine. Like, dude strikes out a lot of guys whenever he's right. The third starter is, I don't know how to say this. It is Ryan Pepiot.
Pepio.
Very French of him, Pepio. Ryan Pepio. He is probably the worst starter, and he's a 3.60 ERA with a 1.15 WHIP, 9.8 Ks per nine. He's the guy they got in the Glasnow trade from the Dodgers. He's a very legit 3 starter. He's the guy that's kind of been. They're trying to decide between him, Boz, who is slated as their 4th starter, and Little as one of the guys that will be in that 3 role. And then probably the most intriguing of the starters is Taj Bradley, who's 23. And he had a not great season. It's funny because the guy with the worst WHIP in that 6 is a 122 WHIP, which is awesome. I'll take it. Thank you very much.
You should take it, man.
The White Sox are all like, wait, really?
What?
How do they do that?
He's 23, and the growth from 23 to 24. You're only on an upswing for the vast majority. It's rare that you have a downturn.
For sure.
You're likely going to have room for growth at that.
And he's super inconsistent, but just to show how good he could be, over a 9-start stretch last year, he had a 0.82 ERA. So in the middle of the season, like, he was lights out. Now, then he went to crap for a while too. So he's like this, right? But the guy's got a ton of upside, and he strikes out 10 per 9 innings. So they have a lot of swing and miss stuff in their starting 6, which is frightening for the rest of the league. Question is, are they going to be able to score enough runs to support them? And that's kind of the Rays every year, right?
How does the Steinbrenner Stadium compare to the Trop? Is it
that's a great question.
Ballpark effects.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
I don't know if
it'll be outside instead of inside. They won't have a stupid speaker to hit on a pop-up short left field. I don't know how they're going to handle it, but yeah, it's crazy.
Can't be any worse, right?
Yeah, I want to hit up on a couple of these guys. So Shane McClanahan has ace stuff, really good. Coming back from Tommy John. The thing is that this is his 2nd Tommy John at the age of 27 years old. And so the last guy of his prominence that went through 2 Tommy Johns was Walker Buehler. And so Walker Buehler has not been the same ever since. And we talked about him in our episode with Boston. And they're hoping to catch something. But the Dodgers, for an opening day start for the Dodgers, just be let go, tells you something. So hopefully McClanahan doesn't suffer from the same stuff. And I hope he gets back. Shane Baz and Taj Bradley are both. They've been top prospects in overall MLB for years. They're both high talent, high upside, top 3 SP kind of ceilings. And frankly, Taj Bradley and Zane Baz both were kind of looked at as being top 1 or 2 pitchers on a team.
Yeah.
So the fact they're slated as the 4 and 5, I mean, they may end up there. They may not pan out. And that's why a lot of GMs in MLB, they trade prospects left and right because they don't always pan out. So having the top 5 prospect, I mean, Bubba Starling, man, just to hit our Royals back in the day. How many people remember hit 5-tool player out of Nebraska and turned out? I mean, there's lots of those guys. There's tons of those guys. Luke Koshaver.
Closer.
And so there's tons of dudes that get drafted high. They get picked really high. They never really pan out. But these guys, they're still super young. So 25 for Baz, 23 for Bradley. They both have a lot left in the tank. And again, worst case, I think Tampa has 2 more phenomenal bullpen arms. Once they just focus on 2 pitches and you throw high 90s and we have a killer breaking ball, that's kind of all you need to be dominant in the bullpen. But that's just kind of a couple notes.
Here's your part effects. Okay. And basically, it's going to be harder for right-handed power, and it's going to be a lot easier for left-handed power. So the Lau Low brothers should get a bit of a bump to their power numbers, whereas Yandy Diaz is going to probably have a little bit. He's going to
that's interesting.
Not going to have as many homers more than likely.
Okay.
And Chris Morel doesn't care because he hits him 500 feet when he hits him.
Yeah, he does. It doesn't matter for him. He hits bombs when he gets them. Their bullpen is really interesting. The guy I love, their closer's Pete Fairbanks. He's okay. He's reliable. He's steady. 3.57 ERA guy. 23 saves last year. He's not the future. He may not even be the future this year.
He's the present, and that's about all he can go.
But he's not bad. I mean, like any club would take you in their bullpen. The guy that I'm really interested in is Edwin Uceda. He's a setup guy. And last year he had a 1.51 ERA, 1.7 WAR out of the pen, which is
that's pretty
crazy.
Yeah, it's really hard to do.
0.82
whip. Wow.
Nice. And 12.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. So this guy is just stinking unbelievable. His K to walk ratio is 7.13. And that's been the key because the guy always had nasty stuff, but he walked so many people that he never could become the guy. And last year it clicked. He stopped walking people. He still had the nasty stuff. And, they put him in all the highest leverage scenarios. So
they're going to, I can almost guarantee you the way they're going to be running that is that there's no traditional closer.
Yeah.
They might have Pete Fairbanks in the cool, we're up 3 runs closer role. But Edwin Uceda is going to come in the high leverage. We have to get this out or we will probably lose the game. Which means you're not going to be getting saves out of him. You're only getting high leverage outs. So they care more about wins than your fantasy nonsense.
Totally.
Yep. 8th inning, 2 guys on. Got to have this next batter or we're screwed type situations.
He's fun though, and I actually watched some film on him. I hadn't seen him a lot in real life, so I watched some film on him, and I was like, "Dang, this guy's fun to watch."
Yeah, just to highlight that ratio, I mean, right around 7-1 Ks to walk. So 4 is awesome. So 4 strikeouts per walk is awesome. Elite awesome. I'm talking that's 200 Ks and 50 walks in a season translation. Holy crap, that's a ton. And so
7.1.
Hey, do you know what Urseg was last year?
I think he was right around
He was 22-1.
Was he really? He didn't walk anybody then. Well, we'll talk about him when we get to Royals.
He and Bubic was 12-1.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
The
they just did not walk anybody at the back end of their pen. So yes,
the projections for Uceda this year, at least on CBS Sports, is 91 innings, 20 saves. So I think he's going to get some saves, but not all.
Okay.
But then 118 Ks in those 91 innings and 18 walks in those 91 innings. Again, that is stupid high in a .78 whip, 139 ERA. Let's just say they missed by a whole run on their ERA.
Right.
Yeah, 2.39 ERA is still really good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was in a fantasy league for many years, like a daily league, where you swapped out your lineup literally every day. And I used to target guys like this the whole draft. My last 3 picks would be guys exactly like this.
Yeah.
They're gonna pitch probably 4 to 5 games a week for an inning. They're going to get 8 strikeouts a week. They're going to allow 3 base runners a week. Like, just it helps your numbers so much on the WHIP and ERA.
Like old school Josh Hader when he was always a setup guy for the Brewers. And then, I mean, he's since become a closer, obviously, but he wasn't. He was always just a setup guy that do the 7th and 8th, and he was a high leverage guy. So,
oh my God. This is
pretty crazy.
This is so ridiculous. Just looking at this stuff. This guy was released by the Cubs in 2023. Released, just signed as a free agent. He's making $740,000. And
is that not a Tampa?
He is under club control for this year. I'm telling you, just mark this down. I can already tell you, unless for some reason Tampa Bay is in a commanding spot, they're going to try to get a King's rant. They're going to show him off, and he's going to be great. And then some contenders are going to give them some package for him.
I could totally see it.
Because he's going to get paid.
I mean, it shows what Tampa does.
He's 27, so
you only got these guys that have all the potential in the world, but just can't seem to get control. They walk too many players, whatever. Yeah. And they take them and they sprinkle this magic pixie dust on them, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, I only throw strikes, and I get everybody out, and I'm incredible.
I'm calling my shot. I'm calling my shot midway through the year. If the Red Sox are even remotely close, they're going to try to grab this guy and throw him in as the closer because they don't have anybody, and this would be a perfect.
They hardly ever do interdivision trades, though, but I hear you. It's worth throwing out there.
If any team would do interdivision trades, it's the Rays. They don't care.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So
we talked about Detroit, too, and their closer by committee, whatever. That might be a good spot for him to land if Detroit's making a run at the AL Central.
I mean, everybody always needs this guy. So no matter what your bullpen looks like, to add this guy is help. So
especially
I think
if he comes out strong.
Yeah, and he's a reliever though. He's like they're fungible, they're tradable. They're not they're not critical for your long-term success. And he's 27. He's at his peak, right? Yeah. So he's going to have so much value in return, way more than you probably should get for a reliever.
Yeah,
I just bet they're going to be in that 500 range, just like they were last year, and then they're going to unload people just like they did last year, like a Rosarena and a couple other people. And so you mark this guy down. He's actually probably got more value towards the end of the year from a fantasy perspective, I bet, because he's going to be in higher leverage, fancier.
He may slide into a closer role.
I think he might get there quick
for a good team and have lots of opportunities.
A couple other guys. So the rest of their bullpen, it's interesting. They don't have any really old guys. Their oldest guy on the whole team is Yandy Diaz. He's 33, but on the pitching staff, the oldest guy they have is Fairbanks, 31. So they don't have the old senior dude who's coaching up the young guys. They've got guys that kind of all fall within this 23 to 29 range.
Well, once they are eligible for a real contract, that $90 million team salary is constrictive. So
they're waiting goodbye. We've got plenty of guys we can turn into you, and they do it.
And they do it.
And they go to the scrap pile regularly and make it happen. I don't know. Something is in the water down there, or they just somehow have different machines because they're the only team that seems to be able to do this.
It's amazing.
I will say, for a team that's supposedly values OBP, their OBPs are very Royal-esque. That's what I'm kind of surprised
Lewis,
about.
That's a great thing that you point out, because I thought the exact same thing when I was looking at this, because I was like, oh, this is going to be OBP monster team, and you look at it and you're like, no, this is not, and
that's why they struggle.
I don't know. Yeah, it is. And if they could turn that around a little bit, they don't have to have a bunch of huge bats in the lineup. If they get on base, because they're gonna hold teams to not much. So you're gonna have to win your games 3-2 when you're playing the Rays, and hope that you can get over the line. They also picked up a guy. Two other interesting guys in the bullpen I wanted to call out. Mason Montgomery, he just came up, barely played last year, but had a phenomenal outing in his cup of coffee. Struck out 18 batters in 9 innings. So it was looked legitimately good as a 24-year-old lefty. So he's going to be fun to watch the bullpen. And the Tigers bizarrely cut a guy, Alex Faedo, who was like one of their leading bullpen guys. He'd had one of his best seasons with the Tigers, and they let him go at the end of last year. And just this month, the Rays picked him up. So when the Rays pick somebody up like that, who's often one of his best seasons, I'm like, ooh, they know something here. This guy has actually probably got something, and the Tigers didn't see it because they're the Tigers. And so I'm keeping my eye on him too. So the bullpen's really good. The last guy that they brought in was Ha-Sung Kim. I don't know if you guys remember this guy, but they signed him in the offseason. He was a Padres middle infielder, 2.6 WAR guy. As a middle infielder, had 11 home runs and 22 stolen bases. He's hurt, had surgery in the offseason, so he probably won't be ready till the middle of the year. But when he does get ready, I think he's going to be an interesting guy to watch because he adds 100 points from his average to his OBP. So he goes 233, 330.
Yeah, it's not
bad. Guy
gets
on base like crazy, and he can steal, and he's got some power for a middle infielder. So he'll be a really valuable piece off the bench.
I think he plays pretty good D too.
To your earlier point, they need guys with on base percentage.
Yes,
they don't have that right now.
He would instantly become like the second best guy on their team from an OBP standpoint.
Yep. So if their offense struggles, he may step in. He may get a shot.
So it'd be interesting if mid-season you've got Eloy Jimenez and you add in Ha-Sung Kim into this lineup, and they look a little scarier, and they look like they may actually be able to generate some runs. They could be a threat. They're always a threat, but they're never going to overwhelm you, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
And I want to do one thing, just so when I'm looking at the prospects, I know you're going to get to it in a minute, but as we keep talking about what Tampa does best, so in the trade last year with the Padres, they got back in return Dylan Lesko.
Yeah.
And that was one of the Padres' top prospects. And his main bugaboo is he couldn't really move up the system because he just was too wild. Couldn't figure things out.
Hey, this sounds familiar.
It does, right? So I'm like, So all they got to do is get him to throw in the big box, and if he throws strikes, he's going to be really good. So it's one to keep an eyeball on, especially if you're in the deeper leagues with prospects and dynasty teams. Just keep a look at him in spring training and see if Tampa did yet another magic trick on this guy. Because if he starts throwing strikes, that's his only thing. That's his only thing.
I wouldn't bet against him because he strikes out a lot of people. He just walks a lot of people. And so if
he puts them right back on.
Right? So if Tampa gets a hold of him, I would love to see, he's a top 100 prospect, and he's got a really good chance. He went to the best organization he could go to, for sure.
That's exactly right.
The other two guys to look at, Carson Williams, shortstop. He's like, depending on what you look at, number 2 to number 10 ranked prospect at all Major League Baseball. They're like, this dude's a sure Gold Glover. He had 20 home runs at AA last year. He's probably not going to come up till 26, so they're not going to rush him, but he's going to be a lot of fun to watch when they do get him up. And then a first baseman named Xavier Isaac. He's a number 6 overall prospect in the minors. Killing the ball. He has tons of power. I mean, like, his power metrics are crazy, but he strikes out at like a 35% rate right now. So they're trying to figure out how to get a little more bat on ball. He's still young too. They're not expecting him till 26 at the earliest. So nobody that you're going to see this year probably, but those three, Dylan Lesko that Dexter mentioned, Carson Williams, and Xavier Isaac, all three of them are guys to look at if you're looking at dynasty leagues for sure.
Yeah, so if there's one thing I think Tampa doesn't do as well is developing the bats.
Nope.
And sometimes they'll get them, but as you look through the lineup and look through the trades, their magic trick is pitching.
Yep.
So whatever they do it on that side of the ball. So if any of these prospects can come up and hit and not need a lot of help, I mean, Wander Franco was that guy. I mean, honestly, the year he was going out, he was in MVP discussions.
Right.
So he's 5.5 WAR, and that was halfway through the year, man. So it was not going the other direction. And again, right to that point, he was the anchor. He was the absolute glue of this offense and the biggest part of it. They haven't been able to replace it since, and Lowe and Lau have both been hurt and inconsistent since then. But if those guys can turn it on, if Eloy Jimenez starts hitting, and finds a zone, they could score some runs. And with this pitching staff and relievers, they could kind of rattle some cages in the AL East, I think.
I loved looking at the staff. Like, I hadn't done a deep dive before on their staff, and like, they're impressive. So I don't want to face them a lot for sure. I think the big wild card is this small stadium, all your games at home at the beginning, and then huge road stretches is really difficult on a team.
It is.
Young team too, with essentially no playoff experience. So if you get you get these 50-50 balls towards the end of the year. We were talking about how once you get towards the end of the year, the games get a lot harder when everybody's close to 500 because everything's so high leverage, and they're going to be projected to be in that like every game matters for like the last 10 days.
That's right.
83 wins, you're probably out. 86 wins, you're in type numbers.
Exactly.
I mean, where you're within striking distance.
I hadn't seen that in a long time, but yeah.
And as I looked at them and I went to my prediction, like I had to get out my bias. My bias is always to believe in the Rays because they're the Rays, and I just always feel like they tend to overperform. But they didn't last year. They actually underperformed their projections slightly. And I think because they're young, because they've got some guys coming back from serious injuries, and because of their schedule and being in this park and the nonsense that's going to create, I'm slightly leaning under on the 81 and a half. Slightly
Red Sox
under.
are better. Red Sox are better this year.
Yankees
are going to be good.
Their division plays a part.
Tampa Bay spent a lot of money to get better, and they are likely going to be better. We're going to go over them soon.
Baltimore, Boston,
Toronto.
Yankees, Toronto. Like, man, it's a tough division, and I just feel like the intangibles are stacked a little against them this year. I still think they're a fun team to watch, and they could easily beat the 81.5, but I'm going to put small money on the under.
Yep, I think so. I everything you've talked about makes me think they're more likely to be under than not.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of things to play the right way to get mid-80s, upper 80s.
Yeah, there's a lot of ifs that you just said there that have to go right.
Yeah.
And they'll probably trade their best parts for more controllable assets.
That's what you think about too, is like when you look at the teams in their division this year, what they're spending, and why wouldn't you stock up for, the next 5 years, which I could easily see.
I want to bring up last year just as a case in point. Last year, around the trade deadline, their record was like a game under 500. And they traded away all these assets, and they finished basically a game under 500. Like, they just played 500 ball after that, and they got all these assets, right? So, they can still do reasonably well, but I do think this is another year they're just going to, let go if it gets anywhere close.
Tread water and play for the future.
Yep. Yeah. And if you get Shane McClanahan back, if he's, back, he's going to be a huge piece they could deal, especially if you're a little scared. Like Deck said, a guy who's had 2 Tommy Johns. So, if you could get a couple big prospects for a guy that's good but breakable. Yeah, that's what Tampa does.
They got all these dudes with broken elbows that they're trying to throw back out there and hope for the best.
Right.
And I don't know. I think today's game, when you're throwing high 90s and tweaking those elbows with big breaking balls, it's hard to stay on the mound. I mean, that's 5 surgeries out of their top 2 guys, and the oldest one's 29, man.
Today's pitchers are throwing so many cutters and sliders and off-speed stuff, and back in the day, you could get away with it. Tommy Johns weren't as straightforward, so maybe you couldn't. But pitchers today have a tough time on elbows.
Yeah.
All right.
For sure.
Well, I think that's pretty good. Appreciate it, Chiz. Good wrap-up on Tampa. If you got any questions or comments, you want to throw it in the socials, hit us up. We'll try and answer them on some future episodes. But that is where we stand on this primer for Tampa Bay. So thank you very much for listening. Stay shrewd. We'll see you on the next episode.
Like, follow, and subscribe. Thanks for joining.
Follow, subscribe.
Join the Patreon.
Join the Patreon.
Take care, y'all.